Football is funny sometimes. 1 minute you're celebrating the greatest night in your club's history. The next, you're standing in the middle of the pitch staring into the distance for losing the biggest game of your life. Heartbreak, penalty shootout, a trophy slipping through your hands. But weirdly, the image everybody keeps talking about isn't the penalties, it's Declan Rice. Because while some Arsenal players looked devastated, while others were trying to process what happened, Rice had this strange look on his face. Almost calm, at the same time angry. Sinister, in fact, a slight grin. And rival fans started doing what rival fans do, saying he's lost his head. He knows where the cameras are. It's performative. He wants another social media moment. But here's the thing, we've heard this before. Think back to Arsenal winning the Premier League. One of the images that went viral was Declan Rice standing there talking about how the job wasn't done. And then Arsenal went on to go 5 games unbeaten to clinch the title. So Arsenal responded. They didn't collapse after coming close. They didn't settle. They won the league. Fans were saying bro thinks there's a second leg at the Emirates, assuming that nothing can be done of this. But let's look at it. Arsenal's trajectory has been great. Going from quarters to semis to a final. Logic would tell you that next year should be their year. And I'm sure Rice would be at the forefront, leading them to that title. Looking at the final itself, Rice's reaction afterwards actually makes sense. By all accounts, Arsenal grew into the game, even though people were complaining about their 28% possession rate. Rice himself said the defeat was cruel. He spoke about how much the group had given, how every player had given everything, and he kept repeating one theme. This isn't going to define us. This was the message. Not excuses, not referees, not bad luck, not blaming teammates. Just, this isn't going to define us. Declan got awarded a yellow card for complaining at a decision, which definitely seemed like a penalty at the time. Since arriving at Arsenal, the team has progressed every single year. As I said, quarter-finals, semis, now the final. That's not failure, that's progression. Painful progression, but yes, progression nevertheless. And when you actually listen, it doesn't sound like a player trying to convince everybody else. It sounds like a player convincing himself, because that's what elite athletes do. They take responsibility. They take devastation and immediately start looking for the next mountain. Rice also refused the controversial penalty incident involving Noni Madueke. He admitted that in the moment he thought Arsenal should have had a penalty. Then afterwards he acknowledged that the challenge looked similar to one that Arsenal previously benefited from against Leverkusen. Again, whether people agree or disagree, what stood out was his mentality. He didn't make the defeat about a single decision. Instead, he returned to the bigger picture. You could say it's PR, Declan saying the right things. But again, history tells us Declan will respond. The team will, the journey, the future. And that's where things get interesting. Villain stare. Because let's talk about that image. The camera catches Rice after the final whistle. Everyone around him is devastated. And he's just staring, almost expressionless. Then there's that little grin.
The Grinch got a wonderful.
Definitely not happiness. Something else. Almost like he knows something. And honestly, I can see why rival fans are joking about it. It looks a bit ridiculous, but at the same time, if he pulls it off, legendary. Michael Jordan had that look. Cristiano Ronaldo had that look. It's the look of somebody who's turning pain into fuel in real time. And Rice has shown signs of being that type of personality. Now here's where my own opinion comes in. Before this final, I actually felt Arsenal would lose, not because PSG were necessarily better, but because it felt too soon. I know that sounds strange, but football teams often follow a trajectory. You learn, you suffer, you improve, you suffer again, and eventually you win. Think about Liverpool under Klopp. The biggest teams usually don't arrive at the summit immediately. They climb, fall, climb higher, and then finally break through. Now obviously football doesn't owe anybody anything. Just because you reach a final doesn't mean you'll get there again. Ask plenty of great teams throughout history. Nothing is guaranteed. This is a team still growing. The easiest thing after a defeat like this is self-pity. The easiest thing is believing you've missed your chance. The hardest thing is believing this is only the beginning, and that's exactly what Rice appears to believe. The mentality monster argument. This is why I think Arsenal fans love him. Not because he's perfect, not because he has flair or is great on the half turn, but because every big moment seems to reveal the same thing: mental resistance. The guy doesn't seem to stay down for long. Even after the biggest defeat of his career, he's still talking about building. He's talking about what comes next. And whether people call that leadership, mentality, or PR doesn't really matter. The result is the same. The message stays consistent. So about that stare, I wasn't a player posing for cameras in my personal opinion, but I genuinely believe that he thinks he'll be there next season. I genuinely believe he thinks Arsenal will lift the Champions League in the near future. And that look is a focused look he may look back on. Yes, rival fans will laugh and say, copium. But at this point, you have to have self-belief if you're going to reach the mountain. Maybe it wasn't some calculated image. Maybe it was something much simpler. Maybe it was a player standing in the wreckage of a dream, already thinking about the next attempt. Because if Arsenal's recent journey has taught us anything, it's that every painful ending has become fuel for the next step. From the quarters to the semis to the final, from nearly men to league champions, I think they dominate. And now the question becomes, was this Arsenal's heartbreaking ending, or was it the beginning of a career chapter that finally ends the Champions League glory? Because judging by Declan Rice's face, and judging by his words in his interview, he seems convinced the story isn't finished yet. And maybe this is exactly why Arsenal should be dangerous next season. What do you guys think? Was it PR? Copium? Was Declan looking for another social media moment? Give me your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching as always. I'll check you on the next one. Peace.